You're listening to the Maryland Fishing Line, a production of the Chesapeake Angler Magazine.
Hey, welcome everybody to episode 5 of the Maryland Fishing Line. Today is June 23rd, 2020. I'm one of your hosts, Brian.
And I'm the other, Joey.
It's a podcast where we talk about fishing throughout the great state of Maryland. Maryland Fishing Line, folks, is a production of the Angler Magazine, Chesapeake Edition. The Chesapeake Angler can be found throughout southern Maryland and Arundel County and the Eastern Shore. If you would like to see it in your area and it's not there, please let us know. How you doing this week, Joey?
Pretty good.
Yeah?
You got when's your next issue coming out? You working on it?
I've got something in the notes to talk about a little bit later, but it's going to be end of June. We're going to have come back in July.
Really I'm excited.
Strong. So I'm excited about that too. Before we get too deep into anything else, let's take a look at what's going on around the state in the world of fishing. Air temperatures, water temperatures stay on the rise, and we are absolutely positively, just like we mentioned last week, in the midst of summertime patterns. Looking at the upper Chesapeake Bay, nothing's changed here. Same drumbeat. Conowingo Dam pool striper fishing remains good on topwater baits in the morning, and as the day wears on, it's a good idea to switch it up to plastics, or folks have started live lining perch over the Conowingo Dam, because we were talking about that earlier. Perch are everywhere.
Yeah.
In fact, live lining throughout the upper bay is your good choice right now, as chumming produces lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of catfish. If you're into the whiskered, barbled little friends, then by all means, do that.
They're freaking everywhere now.
I know. In the middle bay, water temperatures are holding on the surface in the mid-70s, and that is allowing rockfish to move freely throughout the water column. You could get any way you like to fish right now, you can go find them. Trolling channel edges, you're going to find fish in 25 to 30 feet of water. Umbrella rigs with inline weights are great. Good success possibilities right there with that. Spot are showing up in numbers finally, and it's a great choice to live line some spot. You can have fun catching a spot, then you can have some fun killing a spot. Feed them to the rockfish. So if you can get out early in the morning or later in the evening, you're going to find shallower water rockfish with some specks on topwater baits, looking for them around structure. You're also going to see a lot of white perch action in those same areas. Lower bay, trolling for striped bass in the lower Potomac along the channel edge has been very productive. Umbrella rigs with inline weights, white bucktails with sassy shads or twister tails, drone spoons. That's hard to say. Drone spoons in chartreuse and gold color combinations. Here's some big news. Bluefish are becoming more common in the mix. I'm excited about that. I love me.
Seen some reports of missing tails of regular, people trolling.
Yeah.
Bluefish are back.
Yeah. Anglers are reminded, though, that the creel limit for bluefish this year has changed. The daily creel limit is now 3 per day if fishing from shore or a private boat, or 5 per day if you're fishing on a charter boat, with the minimum size being 8 inches.
I feel like it's hard to catch an 8-inch bluefish. I feel like all the 8 inches are just going to bite the tail off of whatever rubber thing you're using.
Not even get close to it. Shallow water stripers and specks on the eastern shore. They're holding the star zone for the week. Top waters and 4 to 5 inch plastics is your best bet there. How much fun is that? Shallow water stripers and specks in the mix, in the marsh, in the little water. Man, it's
love
fun.
That.
Here we go, Joey. I know this is news for you. Large red drum are showing up for some fun catch and release action. Trolling large spoons near the middle grounds. Jigging can also be very effective when you spot them on your graph, or look for them under slicks. Cobia are becoming more common in Virginia, and a few have jumped over that Maryland line, are being caught by folks sight casting live eels or large soft plastic jigs. Small spot are being caught on the hard bottom areas of the mouth of Patuxent and the Tangier Sound. White perch can be caught in the same areas on the same bloodworm baits. Mix of channel and blue catfish, same spot. Clam snouts or cut bait. White perch are showing up in the tidal creeks, and that is fun light tackle action for the kiddies. Recreational crabbing is steadily picking up this week, as one might expect. The best crabbing is in the lower bay, especially the eastern side, although we're doing well. I think I've done well. I did well this last week. Full bushel of crabs is fairly common per outing there. So that's that. Razor clams, if you're looking for crabs, that is your best bait. But, of course, the old standby chicken neck will work just as well. So switching over and looking at freshwater, water temperatures in the small ponds, reservoirs, and tidal waters are slowly rising, and the bass are slipping into that typical summer pattern. They feed at night, and they get lazy during the cool water during the day when they can find it. At this point, grass is the key. Shallower grass areas are some of the best hunting grounds for largemouth, and deeper grass provides a place to find cover and sit out the day. Top water lures, lipless crankbaits, and soft plastic baits are good items to work shallow areas during early morning and evening hours, and then get something heavier down to the bottom in that cooler, deeper grass. Weighted plastic worms, stick worms, jigs, anything else you can get down and get through that thick, deep grass. Of course, looking for structure, sunken wood should not be overlooked. Looking at snakeheads, they are near the end of their spawning and will offer slightly better fishing opportunities. Of course, though, look for them in thick grass. Topwater frogs, buzz baits are the good choice. Everybody's catching blue catfish everywhere. I've got a big, long section here, but I think if you want to find a catfish, look for water.
Yes, throw a hot dog in the water.
So flipping it over to the Atlantic Ocean and the coastal bays, the action in the surf is slipping into the summer fishery with kingfish being caught on bottom rigs with bloodworms or squid, or catching small bluefish. Why would anybody want to catch a blowfish? But they're out there. We are seeing a few flounder and some small black drum on sand fleas. At the inlet, you're looking for swim shads, bucktails, and metal is a good way to target those bluefish. Most of the striped bass that are being caught there at the inlet are failing to meet that 28-inch minimum, but larger ones are being caught every day, so don't give up. Flounder fishing is good in the inlet area and the back bay channels, as the water clarity remains good. Boats heading out to the canyons are finding some yellowfin and big eye, and limit catches of yellowfin are fairly common this past week. Some of the big eye are being brought to the docks are 200 pounds or more. Remember, watch your wind, watch your weather, and let them rule the day, because you don't want to have a bad day offshore.
Mm-hmm.
So what's going on, Joey? What have you been doing this week? Did you fish at all?
A couple times out in the creek. I haven't done anything adventurous yet. I did take my fly rod, like a 4-weight, over to McIntosh Run, which is in Leonardtown, which runs out into the Leonardtown Wharf, which runs out in the Brenton Bay. I like a couple spots in there. It kind of reminds me of like fishing some really small creeks for trout.
You got any kayak?
Yeah, I took my Bonafide up there. Can't really do a propel drive during the shallow low tide, because there's some portage places where you have to get out and drag it.
Okay, I was going to ask you about that. So that's McIntosh Run. That's
McIntosh. Yeah, and you get some. It's a beautiful place to paddle in general. Yeah. But it holds a lot of fish, and I think it's overlooked a lot. Like Jerry didn't even know what I was talking about the other day.
Yeah. Well, you were calling it McRun too.
I call it McIntosh Run. That's my. Yeah. I'm lazy.
I knew what that meant, but he didn't.
A lot of paddling in the past. I used to do a lot of carp fishing over there on the fly rod out in the marsh.
So when you drop in there, how far is it to where you get to some?
I think it's mile marker like 1.5 where. If you want to pretend you're like fishing some Shenandoah stream and you can't really cast a fly rod, and there's some of these little areas where when the tide goes out, it's flowing through, like and you got a lot of, it's like a little trout stream, and it's fun with a little like just catching like 10-inch little largemouth and the little bluegill, sunfish. It was just fun on a 4-weight. Like sometimes you got to downsize.
So instead, I agree. Instead of actually putting a boat in there, could you just weight it?
No.
Okay.
So you got to go through some pretty deep pools to get to.
Okay.
I don't know a way to access it from where we are. I guess you could. Okay. But it'd just be tough.
And
I rent kayaks if you want to get out there. I run a paddle sports store. We sell fishing kayaks, we sell recreational kayaks, and we rent them out too.
And that's right at Port of Leonardtown Winery.
Yeah, we share the same parking lot, and I have a retail store there for paddle sports, which I'm starting to get. I want to gear it more towards fishing stuff. We've been doing really well in the last couple of years, and I've been pushing it. Hopefully, with the magazine.
So what do you
couldn't advertise because we don't have any boats.
What are your target fish over there?
Where I was targeting small fish, little sunfish, a little little bass. Something that you get something that big on a 4-weight fly rod. It's like a 35 on my 8-weight fly rod or my light tackle spinning rod.
What about snakehead?
But I ran across so many snakehead yesterday. Was that yesterday? So right around that mile and a half, it was Monday. Yeah. Right around that mile, they actually have mile markers out there now for paddling.
Really?
So it's really cool because I use those mile markers to, if I have something I need fixed. So the town works really well with us. And I had a couple big trees fall over, and I'm like, all right, from here to here, because they have, sometimes the Amish come in, sometimes they have like tree guys come in and take, because it's a huge tourism thing for the town, and they're big on that, and they work great with us.
Oh, that's awesome.
So the mile markers, can't talk, really help. But around 1.5, it opens up from that really tight, places where it's my 5 feet across, to it opens up. It still runs shallow, and there's some nice big, like mud flats in there, and a lot of carp, which was normal. I wouldn't plan on trying to fish for carp. I was in and out. I was trying to get social media content.
Right.
For Bonafide. I really wanted Bonafide to use a couple photos when I was talking to them. And Benny Branches for paddles. But man, if I would have had a bigger rod, probably about a dozen, I would say, snakehead, anywhere between 15 and like 25 inches.
I was gonna say, I was asking what size
there was one that it's scary. It was kind of spooky. The way I ran up on it, like a couple of times I spooked one at Mallows Bay that jumped on my boat. I just thought it was a log, but it just swam off like it didn't really care. I was like, hey, thanks, guy.
They're such cool. They're actually kind of growing on me a little bit.
I did take a couple casts of that one.
Yeah.
With like and I'm using like a fiberglass, like it's a brand new like throwback Eagle Claw fiberglass 4-weight. So it's like a freaking noodle. I was like, if I catch this and it doesn't, because I was throwing a 20-pound leader, which is, so I was like, I'm not gonna break the leader on this thing. I was like, I'm an idiot. I was like, there goes my fly rod. So I was just like, no, this is dumb. It was one of the things where it just had, I keep 20-pound mono leader in my truck, which is weird, but I threw it on that rod, but. No, it was a fun little quick outing. The creeks have still been doing well for me with. I'm waiting for that water temperature to get up a little bit more, and I'm gonna ditch all the flies and stuff for stripers, and I'm like hardcore on redfish, smaller redfish. Like, I would love to take a kayak out on a boat to the target ship because I used to do that when I was younger.
Oh,
with the big red drum.
Yeah,
but I hear rumors about red drum in here, like big ones. Yeah. But I want that 15 to 25 inch. Yeah.
Just to have some
4
fun.
or 5. Yeah, like stuff I would fish for down in the marsh in like Carolina.
Huh.
They're in here. You got to like focus on that. And I think until then, I'm going to play around with some perch and stuff and go hardcore on that. And I'm about to switch over to, like I told you, I want to do a bunch of freshwater fishing again. Yeah. So just clean my kayak.
Well, my June tournament just finished for kayak bass fishing, my KBF. And I'm excited about that. In my wrap-up, I had 92 inches.
I know.
I did make one mistake with an open mouth fish that cost me an inch in penalty. So actually, I technically had 93 inches. Now,
I was going to ask you if that fish was your...
No, it actually didn't come into play.
Oh, man, I would have lost sleep after that.
It did not come into play, that 1 inch. So I was still able to finish fourth, and I was 2 inches out of a tie for third place, so that 1 inch penalty did not come into play. But if it would have, if I'd had one more 1 1/4 inch, and that 1 inch would have made a difference, I think I'd have been upset. But it's hard, and I talk about this in one of my recent YouTube videos. One of the hardest things about those KBF catch photo release tournaments is the photo part. Yeah. Because there's so many requirements. You have to be able to see everything clearly. You have to have the right angle. The fish's mouth has to be closed. You have to be able to see the identifier. You can't have a finger under a gill plate. I had one fish get totally disqualified because my finger looked like it was. I don't think my finger was, but it sure did look like it was, like up under the gill plate. But it was a smaller fish, which would have gotten cold out anyway, so I didn't really care very much.
I actually have never done this. Is new to me. And I know I've seen it all the time, but what would it fit? I mean, what would it have to do with like length?
What do you mean?
So you said you had like if your finger's under the gill plate.
I think that's about health of the fish.
Oh, okay.
That's about.
I could see that.
Yeah, it's about not sticking your fingers up into the gills because you could.
Oh yeah.
Immobilize a fish by sticking your fingers up underneath it. Yeah. I don't think that would impact the length. But an open mouth could impact the length. And there needs to be a standard, and I get it. I understand. I understand it. And it's one of those things where you're balancing all of those things while at the same time trying to respect the fish and get it out of the water and back into the water as quickly as possible. But you got to make sure you get the picture. You got to make sure that it's done right. You got to make sure all these things are in place. And it's tough. It's probably the hardest part of the whole thing, besides the actual locating of and catching the fish.
Besides the actual fish part.
Yeah. The highlight for me in this tournament, though, so I fished the tournament closed on the 21st, which was Father's Day, and I fished on the 20th, which was the Saturday before. And I was sitting, I think, tied for 7th place. Mm-hmm. And I really went out not really thinking I was going to have as great a day. Mm-hmm. But I went over to those little ponds in Indian Head at Myrtle Grove, and I walked away with a 20-inch fish that day, which was just shy of 5 pounds, and an 18 3/4 inch fish, both all within like 20 minutes of each other. But that whole day, it was like, I think on the video that I did for that, it does in 11-minute segments. My GoPro does 11-minute segments. I think I had a fish in every 11-minute segment. There was a fish, whether it was a smaller bass, a larger bass, or whether it was a pickerel. And I'm figuring out those ponds over there. I know where the deep water is. I know where they're sitting in the summer pattern. I know those are little ponds, but they actually have ledges that'll go from a 2-foot flat to an 8-foot deep in a span of just like a drop. Mm-hmm. It's an old gravel and rock quarry. And so what happened that day was, as I was driving over, there was a massive storm. And I got over there, and the water temperature, the surface water temperature, because I always run my fish finder, even those little ponds, the water temperature dropped over 10 degrees at the surface. And so those fish, that water turned over, mm-hmm. and all of that rain and all of the water, the runoff coming into that pond, it just flooded that pond with oxygen. So those fish came up out of that deeper water, and they jumped right back up onto those 2-foot flats sitting on top of that grass. Yeah. And I went from fishing bottom baits like wacky worms and jigs, I started throwing spinner baits up in that grass. And every single one of those big fish was sitting in 2-3 feet of water on the grass and hammered a spinnerbait. It's completely different fishing than I'd done the last 2 weeks. It was really kind of cool to actually see it happen. But the cool part was, it was, there's a few things that you look for when you're bass fishing. That you look for what food they're eating. But I think people leave out, they forget about oxygen.
It's like the key ingredient.
That is the key ingredient.
Did you do you like you said you keep catching the pond pond boss? And it's, maybe you're the pond boss.
I just like in a video.
And I did the Karate Kid. What's his name?
I know, because I've taken so many big fish out of this little pond.
You keep thinking you're getting the bigger, and you just keep going bigger.
I think the very first day I fished this same pond for the June 1st was the opening of the tournament, and I think I took a 17-inch fish out of there on that day. And I was like, oh, that's got to be the biggest fish in this little pond. And it just kept getting bigger and kept getting bigger. So a good time. It's a good time. And I'm going to have a video that I'm going to do for that day. Because like I said, it was just like, it was crazy. It was like fish after fish after fish. A huge pickerel, 2 really huge pickerel. And I think it was the pickerel that kind of keyed me into the pattern change. It already was in my mind that this water's cooler. Mm-hmm. I've got more oxygen at the surface. These fish are going to be different. But I was watching the pickerel sit up on the flat. They're very visible. They don't seem to hide too well when they're up in the shallow water and they're feeding. They're just, you see them swirling bait up and I watched them do that as I was puttering along through some of the deeper water. Went over there, threw a worm up into the flat and pulled one of those big pickerel off of there. And it's like, okay, pattern change. So those pickerel are there. I know the bass are going to be there too. So it was a fun day. A fun day. Crabs are finally here. We have been getting some down at the pier. I filled the keeper. I think I had a half bushel of crabs last week.
Nice.
For Father's Day. So, and they were good. They were fat and full and very happy until they went into the steamer pot. And then they were not so happy, but it was just a short order of time where they weren't happy. So I should have brought you some. I still have some in the fridge. Nice. So that's about it for me. So what we've been doing on YouTube, I want to bring everybody up to speed. Last week we released a Mallows Bay snakehead and bass video, and find that video on our YouTube channel and comment on it, because when we get to 350 subscribers on YouTube, and I'm really close right now to 300. So when we get to 350 subscribers on YouTube, I'm going to select a random comment from that video to win a Bass Pro Shops e-gift card.
Ooh.
So I'm giving away like cold, hard tackle cash. This is a good way to refer to it.
Can you buy tackle right now?
You can't buy tackle. Well, no, it may not be what you want, but you'll be able to find it somewhere in the age of Rona. You can't even walk into a Walmart. I did get one comment I wanted to highlight. David asked, he said, those are some nice fish. Can you catch crappie at Mallows Bay? Thanks for sharing. Yes, absolutely. There are people that pull crappie out of Mallows Bay. Have you ever caught crappie at Mallows Bay? I know that they sit in the basin. They'll sit in the basin in some of those 3-4 foot areas. So, yes, you can. But that video with the snakehead and the bass was all about snakehead and bass. I didn't catch any crappie. You had referenced earlier, Joe, you'd asked me where we were with the magazine. I am already looking for brag board photos for the August issue. So if anybody has any cool fish pictures and you want to see them in print in the magazine, all you got to do is email them to me. Send them to theanglerchesapeake@gmail.com. Make sure to include a byline and that you have attached the highest resolution photo you have that is suitable for printing. If you send photos from your phone, make sure to send the largest file size possible. A lot of people get kind of messed up with that. They'll send a great picture and it'll attach like a low resolution, and it's just nothing I can do with it. So, and that July issue is going to start showing up towards the beginning of next week. I think.
Oh, nice.
I think it's going to hit next week. So, anything else, Joey, before we wrap this one up?
No,
I'm
gonna hit the creeks this week. I'm gonna hit the Gunpowder River next Monday.
We're talking about doing the Solomon's Bridge tomorrow. Wasn't there?
Oh,
Didn't
yeah.
I see some text comments?
Jerry was
around on that?
I need to get my dad out this week, so I need to load up the natives up here. I need to get the Bonafide. I need to get a center console, but no, just kidding. No, I'd be if my dad. I gotta alternate my nights. So I got podcast night, and then I gotta take Justin on a bike ride one night, and I gotta take my dad fishing another night, and then
such a busy social calendar.
So I need to figure out if my dad wants to go tomorrow night, we'll go to the bridge.
Hey, you know what your solution should be?
Huh.
Quit that whole working thing and just go fishing. It's working out for me. Not really.
I need to find something I can. Yeah.
That's it. We're going to shut this thing down. Hey, folks, if you want to stay informed, you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, or definitely check it out on YouTube. If you're looking for us on Facebook, it's facebook.com/Angler Magazine Chesapeake. If you're looking at us Instagram, it's @Chesapeake Angler. And did you know that you have YouTube short URLs now? You can just youtube.com/Chesapeake Angler.
Huh.
And we'll pop up. And of course, you can always read the e-magazine online at ChesapeakeAnglerMag.com. Find us there. Thank you, Joey.
Thank you, Brian.
Always a lot of fun. Thank you for being a part of this. I appreciate it, and I think it's going to keep us going regular, and hopefully we're going to have a good time.
Oh, I'm regular. I found that in seconds. I actually was not a subscriber. I subscribed. Look how easy that was.
Hey!
You could be listening and playing on your phone and do what I just did. Instant. I know you got some great videos.
It's been a lot of fun to put them together.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of fun to put them together. People have really appreciated them. I'm getting a lot of feedback. I think the format's going to change a little bit for the next one. For this one, where I had that really good day over in the ponds, where I got that 20-inch and those couple of big fish, I think I'm going to focus that video on how to fish a spinnerbait. I'm not an expert, but I mean, I can tell you some basics, and I can tell you some things that work for me. And a lot of people have been asking for that. They've been saying, hey, we really enjoy the channel. We really enjoy the content. Can you take it this direction and give us some how-to stuff, and then give us some links to some stuff that we can go online and buy?
Yeah.
So I think that one's going to take that shape, but we're still finding our stride, and that's that. So, all right, everybody. Well, thanks for listening. Thanks again, Joey.
Thank you.
We'll talk to you again next week.
I guess I can't say love you bye.
You can.